A very good afternoon to all the students. So in today's session we are going to discuss a topic on the product ciphers. Right. So can anybody tell me what do you mean by a cipher? What do you mean by a cipher?
An encrypted code, sir.
What is that one?
Encrypted one.
Okay. Right. So in the last session we discussed the concept on various components that are related to the block cipher. Right. So we'll see what this product cipher is. So it's nothing but a combination of one or more components. So what are the various components we have seen in the last class?
T-box, X-box, XOR, circular shift, swap, split and combine, sir.
Swap, split and combine. Right. So these are all the various components we have discussed under the topic of the components of the block cipher. Right. So a product cipher, we can simply say that it is a combination of one or more components, and in addition to this particular definition we can also say that it consists of more number of such components. For example, if I combine this D and S box as one particular unit, right? So if I say that this is one unit, and these units can be repeated n number of times, right? So why we are doing all these things? Why we are making use of a combination of D box and S box? Similarly, why we are increasing the number of units is in order to achieve the concept of diffusion and confusion. So these two are some of the important topics related to this cryptography. This is very important topic. So we'll see what this diffusion and confusion is, right? So have you understood what actually is the product cipher is? It is nothing but a combination of one or more components. It's not necessary that you always combine the D box and the S box only. You can also combine this T box, S box with SR, or you can make use of the swap component with S box and D box. Like that you can make any combination of the product cipher, but you should also remember that it is not a single unit. So you combine it as a single unit, but these units are n number. These units are in n number, right? So why we are doing all these things? Why we are combining these things and why we are making use of more number of units is the simple reason behind this is we want to achieve the concept of diffusion and confusion. So we'll see what this diffusion and confusion is, right? So diffusion is the relationship between the plain text and the ciphertext, and confusion is the relationship between the key and ciphertext, right? So what are the three important components we have in any cryptography or in encryption or decryption, right? For example, assume that this is a crypto system where we are using it for the at the sender side. So what is the input to this crypto system? It is plain text. What is the output of the crypto system?
Ciphertext.
Ciphertext. So let us represent this plain text with PT and this ciphertext with CT. And other than this plain text and ciphertext, what is that we have in the encryption of a plain text to the ciphertext? Very important component.
Key, sir. Key, sir.
it is key, right? So what is most important is this plain text. So I don't want this plain text to be read by the unauthorized users. I want to send this plain text to an authorized user, and he only has to get the access of this plain text. He only has to read the contents of this plain text. But when this plain text is sent as it is by making use of the communication channels, there may be a probability that the third party unauthorized user can access the communication channel and he can get the plain text. So in order to make this plain text not readable by the third party unauthorized users, I am making use of the concept called as encryption, where I will convert this plain text into ciphertext by making use of a key, right? So what is that? For example, assume that there is an attacker. So the attacker is always interested to know what the plain text has been transferred from the sender to the receiver. So he always tries to get this plain text. So he can try lot of techniques, lot of attacking techniques he may try, and the ultimate goal or the motto of the attacker is to get this plain text. So how can he get the plain text? By making use of ciphertext, can he get the plain text? Any idea? For example, assume that the attacker has attacked and he got the ciphertext. Can he completely reconstruct the plain text from the ciphertext?
There are possibilities, sir.
Super, right. We cannot say there is no possibility. There are possibilities that by looking at the pattern of the ciphertext which he had, he can try different methods for getting the plain text, right? So there is a possibility, and once this is case 1, we'll go and look at case 2, where the attacker tries to attack the key. That means he tries to take the key, or he tries to reconstruct the key. And is it possible to reconstruct the plain text once you have the key?
Yes, sir.
There is 100% possibility, right? Why? Because the entire plain text is converted to the ciphertext by making use of a key. So if this key is compromised, then the entire plain text and whatever the text the sender is sending from his side to the receiver side will be exposed to the attacker, right? So the key plays very important role. You should never expose, or you should never give this key to any unauthorized party, right? So once the attacker knows this key, the entire crypto system itself is compromised. But once the ciphertext is known to the attacker, we cannot say that there is a 100% possibility that the attacker can reconstruct the plain text. But there are some possibilities where he can reconstruct the plain text from the known ciphertext. Is it clear? Is it clear about these two cases?
Yes, sir.
Right. So coming back to our actual discussion, where we left with the diffusion, right? So diffusion gives the relationship between the plain text and the ciphertext. That means this ciphertext is completely dependent on the plain text, right? They are strongly related between this plain text and the ciphertext. That means if there is a small change in the plain text, even you change one bit of plain text here, then there are lot of bits that gets changed in the ciphertext, or the entire ciphertext may change, right? For example, you take the plain text as a 8-bit text, and you take the ciphertext as 8-bit text only, right? This is CT and this is PT. Diffusion gives a strong relationship between this plain text and the ciphertext. That means most of the symbols or the bits that are present on the ciphertext are dependent on the plain text. So what can I say is, if I change one bit in the plain text, it obviously reflects more number of bits in the ciphertext. Why? Because I am saying that the diffusion is a concept where more symbols from the ciphertext are linked to the plain text. So that means one bit is linked to 8 bits. Assume that like that. So one plain text bit is linked to some 8 bits of ciphertext. So what happens here, if I change this bit, plain text bit, from 1 to 0, it will automatically reflect all the 8 bits in the ciphertext. So this is how the diffusion is defined, right? So you should make your encryption algorithm or your encryption technique in such a way that more number of cipher bits are linked to bits that are present in the plain text, right? So this is how the diffusion is defined. And the second term that we need to discuss is the confusion. Confusion is where you will give a good definition, or a good relationship is maintained between this key and ciphertext. The same concept applies here as we discussed in the diffusion also. So the ciphertext, more number of bits from the ciphertext are linked with the keys. So if there is a change in one bit of the key, the entire ciphertext may change, or maximum number of bits from the ciphertext will be changed. So one plain text change will make a lot of difference in the ciphertext. That is called as the diffusion, and one bit change in the key will make a lot of difference in the ciphertext bits. That is called as confusion. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So coming to the introduction part of this product cipher, Shannon introduced the concept of a product cipher, where a product cipher is a complex cipher. As I told that this is a cipher technique where we are combining the substitution, which is nothing but S box, and we make use of the permutation. What is this box called as? P box or D box. And you can make use of the other components such as XOR, swap, etc. Right. So you simply remember only single term. The product cipher is nothing but a combination of one or more components of the block cipher. Is it clear? So the idea enables the block ciphers to have two important properties. One is the diffusion property and the second one is the confusion property. So what diffusion says is, it gives the relationship between the ciphertext and the plain text. The main reason why we are implementing this property, why we want to have this property in any ciphering technique, is it will frustrate the adversary. Adversary is who is nothing but he or she, which we can call it as a third party unauthorized user. So he will this particular diffusion property will frustrate the third party unauthorized users who tries to make use of the statistics of the ciphertext and to find the plain text, right? So it will simply confuse the third party unauthorized user. So that is what the actual diffusion is, right? And this is what I told. It implies that each symbol or a bit or a character in the ciphertext is dependent on some or all symbols in the plain text. So a change in input symbol, which is nothing but the symbol that is present inside the plain text, results in change in several or all symbols in the ciphertext, right? So the diffusion is nothing but it gives the relationship between the plain text and the ciphertext. And coming to the confusion, the basic idea behind this confusion is to hide the relationship between the ciphertext and the key which we are using for the encryption or decryption purpose. And the main reason for this particular confusion property is it will frustrate the adversary who tries to use the ciphertext to find the key, right? By making use of ciphertext, you can find the plain text and you can find the key also, right? This is what we have discussed in the first slide. And the third point is a single bit change in the key changes most or all of the symbols in the ciphertext, right? So everything we have explained. Is it clear about the concept of this diffusion and confusion?
Yes, sir.
Right. And as I told that, one particular combination or a single unit, we can call it as a round, right? One single unit we can call it as round. In future also we are going to discuss two important algorithms regarding this symmetric, that is the DES and AES. There also we will be talking about rounds. So a round is nothing but you can take it as a single unit where you are combining the S boxes and P boxes and other components, right? So you have n rounds. So one round is nothing but one unit. One unit is nothing but it consists of a combination of S boxes, P boxes and other components. So in order to have this more degree of this diffusion and confusion, we need to have these iterated product ciphers. We know what this product cipher is. It's nothing but a combination of P box, S box and other components. So to have the highest degree of confusion and diffusion, what you should do is you should have more number of these product ciphers. So each iteration we call it as a round, and we should know one more important term which is called as the key generator. So the name itself is saying that it is going to generate a key. So each and every round we have a key generator box like this, and at each and every round it has to give some input which is a key. So key 1 is the key that is generated and that is to be given as input to round 1. Similarly, this key generator is also responsible to generate another key, key 2, which should be given as input to round 2 product cipher. Like that we can have n number of keys. All these keys are being generated by the key generator. So this is one important component you should know about this cipher techniques, right? Is it clear? So block cipher uses a key generator that creates different keys for each round from the cipher key. So how many rounds, for example, if I have two rounds, how many encryptions I have performed here? For example, assume that this is round 1 and this is round 2. This is 1 and 2. Right. So you will give the plain text as input, and here you will give the key which is taken from the key generator. Key 1 is generated and it is given as input to this unit 1, and I get an output like this ciphertext, and this ciphertext that I have generated is passed as input to round 2. And similarly, the key generator also passes key 2 to this round 2 unit. And finally, I will get some ciphertext. Right. So if this is the sender side, so I take the plain text, I pass it to the unit, and I give the key from the key generator, and I will get a intermediate ciphertext. This is called as intermediate text, you can call IT. And this intermediate text is again passed to another round of product cipher, and it is combined with the key 2 which is generated by the key generator, and finally I will get the ciphertext, right. So can anybody tell me how many encryptions you have performed here? How many encryptions I have performed if I have 2 boxes? Anybody please respond.
N, sir. 2.
If I have only 2 rounds, how many encryptions I would have performed?
2, sir.
2, right. Similarly, at the receiver side, you also have 2 rounds which is used to decrypt. That means you will take the same keys in the reverse order. So from the sender side you will go like this, and at the receiver end you will go from this to from bottom to top. So you will be generating different keys, and at each and every block you are going to recover, or you are going to generate the plain text from the ciphertext, right. So that is called as decryption. So you have 2 rounds of encryption and 2 rounds of decryption. Similarly, if I take 10 boxes or 10 blocks, 10 rounds, so how many encryptions and how many decryptions we have?
Two encryptions and 2 descriptions, sir. The decryptions, sir.
If I have 10 boxes,
10,
10
sir.
encryptions and 10 decryptions, sir.
10 encryptions and 10 decryptions. In similarly, if I have an n round cipher which is having n rounds, you have n encrypted times, that means the same text is encrypted n times, and the same ciphertext is decrypted n times. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
So in this example we have taken a simple product cipher, right, and it is made of 2 rounds, that's it. So in this particular in this block you can observe here that I have 4 S boxes and there is only 1 P box, permutation box, and there is another component here which is called as a key mixer, which we can call it as the whitener also, right. So how many bits of plain text are you able to see here? What is the length of the plain text?
Eight bits of plain text, sir. 8 bits of plain.
So we have 8 bits of plain text, and that 8 bits of plain text you can see here that this is a key generator which generates the key for each and every round, right. So K1 is generated and it is passed as an input to the key mixer. So this 8 bit of plain text is mixed with K1. Mixing is nothing but where we can use an XOR operation. So mixer is nothing but these 8 bits is XORed with this key K1. So whatever output we get, those are called as whitening bits, right. So if I give 8 bits of input, how many bits of output I should get here? Eight, right. So at this particular point what I am doing is I am dividing the 8 bits into equal number of slots. So 2 bits I am combining and I am putting it into the S box. So the first 2 bits I give as input to S box 1, the second 2 bits of combination I give it as input to S box 2, and the third is given as input to S box 3, and fourth is given as S box 4, right. And finally all these 8 inputs that I get from these 4 S boxes are given as input to the P box. and we have different combinations of this P box, right? So what do you mean by P box? It's a permutation box where you will rearrange the bits. So can anybody tell me what is this D box? What type of D box I am using here? We have three categories of D boxes, right? Out of which what category I am using here?
Straight P boxes.
Super, right? It is a straight P box. Why? Because we have 8 inputs and 8 outputs. So after this round 1, you can see here that 8 bit of the middle text has been generated. So this is also one ciphertext, intermediate ciphertext. We can call it as intermediate ciphertext, or else we can call it as 8-bit middle text. Again, these 8 bits are given to the key mixer, where the key to the 8 bits is mixed with this key K2, and again we divide it into 4 different units, and everything is given as the S box, and you will get 2 outputs from each and every S box, and I combine all these 8 bits and I input them to the P box, and finally I will get the 8 bit of ciphertext. This is a very simple example to understand the concept of product cipher, where I am taking 8 bit plain text, mixing with the key and dividing 8 bits into 4 equal parts which consists of 2 bits each, and again all these 8 bits are given as input to the P box, and finally I will be getting the intermediate plain text. The same scenario is being repeated with n number of units or n number of rounds, but here for our understanding purpose we have taken only 2 rounds, right? Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
And see here how this we are achieving, why we are making use of more number of rounds means, as I told that more number of rounds make the greatest degree of diffusion and confusion. So in order to have the highest degree of diffusion and confusion, we will be making use of multiple number of rounds. So let us continue with the previous example itself, where we have taken 2 rounds, right? So you take the last bit, 8th bit from the plain text, and this 8th bit is XORed with K1. What is this mixing up of this key with the plain text? What is that I told here? It is called as whitener, right? So you mix this single bit, we are looking with respect to a single bit in the plain text only. So 8th bit taken and it is XORed with K1, and you can observe here that this 8th bit is given as input to S4 along with the other input also, S7th bit, but this 8th bit we give input to the S4. So after this we have 2 bits that are affected by this S4. So one 8-bit, it is going to have the output after this S box, substitution box, as 7 and 8. And after giving these 7 and 8 bits as the input, you can observe here that 7th bit is transferred as 4th bit and 8th bit is permuted as the 2nd bit. So this is 8th bit and this is 7th bit. So this where you will get the middle text. So the middle text 2 and 4 represents the 7 and 8 of the actual plain text after making some substitution, right? So after this 2 and 4 are again XORed with this key K2, and you can observe here that 2 has entered as the input for this S1 box and 4 has been entered as input to this S2 box. So we have 4 inputs that are affected at this particular stage. So 4 inputs after permutation, 1, 2, 3, 4 becomes 1, 3, 6 and 7. So one single bit you take at the initial level, and after 2 rounds you can observe here that 4 bits of ciphertext has been affected, right? So one plain text is effecting 4 bits of cipher after just 2 rounds. And now assume what happens if you take n rounds. So you can just assume how many cipher bits are linked to the plain text bits. So this is how the diffusion and confusion has been achieved in the block cipher by making use of more number of rounds of the product cipher. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
And the next topic which we are going to discuss is the classes of the product cipher. So we have basically 2 classes of this product cipher. These classes or these categories are based on whether we are using the invertible components or non-invertible components in our cipher technique. So we have seen what this invertibility is. We know what are the components that are invertible, what are the components that are non-invertible, and what are the components that are self-invertible also, right? Basically the invertibility is categorized into 2 things only, invertible and non-invertible, but under this invertibility we have another term called as self-invertible. So what are the components that are self-invertible?
XOR and swap, sir.
XOR,
Super,
swap, sir.
right. We have only 2 components which are self-invertible, that is the XOR operation and the swap operation. So these classes of product ciphers, or else we can also say that the category of the product ciphers are based on whether you are using the invertible components or a combination of invertible and non-invertible components. So it is divided as the Feastel ciphers and non-Feastel ciphers. So this Feastel is nothing but the name of the scientist who has invented this categories of product ciphers, right? Is it clear how many categories are there? Feastel and non-Feastel, only 2 categories of product ciphers are there, right? So we'll see what this Feastel cipher is and what this non-Feastel cipher is. So a simple difference between this Feastel cipher and the non-Feastel cipher is the Feastel cipher makes use of both invertible and non-invertible components. A very good example on this Feastel cipher is DES, right? We will see what the DES is in the next session. And how we are going to define this non-Feastel ciphers is those ciphers, they make use of only invertible components. So if you are going to use only invertible components, we call it as the non-Feastel cipher, and a very best example for this non-Feastel ciphers is AES, right? So Feastel and non-Feastel are very common techniques that we are going to use in this modern block ciphers, and the difference is if you use both invertible and non-invertible components, we call it as the Feastel ciphers, and if we use only the invertible components, we call it as non-invertible. DES is example for Feastel and AES is the example for non-Feastel, right? So in examination, from the examination point of view, you may be asked to explain any of the Feastel ciphers that you know. So you can simply explain DES, or you may be asked to explain the non-Feastel ciphers that you have studied. So you can go and explain the concept of AES in such case. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So coming to introduction part of this Feastel ciphers, the Feastel designed a very intelligent and interesting cipher, and remember that this particular Feastel cipher has been in use from long decades itself, right? So these particular cipher techniques, Feastel cipher techniques, are being used from the years together, from the long back ago we are trying to use this, right? As I told that the Feastel cipher, they have the 3 types of components. Actually there are only two components, one is the invertible and the non-invertible, but as I told that you can also make use of the self-invertible, which comes under the category of invertible components only. So the Feastel cipher consists of three different components, that is the self-invertible component, invertible components and the non-invertible components. So how can you make use of these non-invertible components for Feastel cipher is, what they will do is they will simply combine all these non-invertible components into a single unit, right, and uses the same unit for both the encryption and decryption, right. We can convert the non-invertible component into invertible component also, that we will see with an example in the coming sessions. So you can simply keep it in mind that the non-invertible components can also be used for the Feastel ciphers, but we won't directly make use of the non-invertible components, right. So what you will do is you will combine it as a single unit, and you can make use of the same unit for both the encryption and the decryption. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So let us see one example of this Feastel cipher design. This is the first ever thought that has struck the Feastel, right, in order to design this cipher. So this is a very simple example, right. So the Feastel has taken the plain text which is of n bit length, and he is giving this plain text P1 as input to the mixer. What I mean by mixer, we can also call it as whitener. Whitener is a component which combines or which performs the XOR operation of the plain text with the key, right. So this key k is generated from the key generator, and I convert this k into some functionality, and I perform the XOR operation of the plain text P1 with the key k, and since I am taking it as a function of k, so this particular output is nothing but P1 exclusive or f of k, that's it. Right. So the resultant entire text I am taking it as a cipher text C1. So this is at the encryption side, or this is at the sender side, and at the receiver side, so assume that this particular sender and receiver are connected with the communication channel like this. So when they are connected, assume that the C1, the C2 has been received at the decryption end, and this is passed to the mixer. What mixer will do is it will just mix it, that means it will perform the XOR operation, that is what it knows. So C2 XOR f of k to get the P2. We will see whether the plain text P1 is equal to P2 or not. Right. So if P1 is equal to P2, then whatever operations you have performed, we can say that they are invertible in nature. Right. Listen carefully how we are doing. So from the encryption side, the ciphertext C1 is obtained as P1 plus f of k. Assume that this is XOR, right? Is it clear how I got this C1 is equal to P1 plus f of k?
Yes, sir.
And at the decryption side, what is that I got here? C2. Am I right or not? I received C2, but I mixed with the function key and I got P2. So how can I write P2 here? P2 is equal to C2 plus f of k. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
And assume that during the transmission of the ciphertext from sender to receiver, assume that there is no change in the ciphertext. Nobody has attacked, nobody has made any modifications in the ciphertext. So can I say that C2 is equal to C1? Whatever C1 is generated at the sender side, the same has been received at the receiver side only. Therefore, can I say it as C2 is equal to C1?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Right. So here this entire C2 plus f of k can be converted as C1 plus f of k. Why? Because C2, since C2 is equal to C1. Now what is this C1 plus f of k? What is this C1? I have here
P1.
C1 is equal to P1 plus f of k. Am I right or not? So I replace
Yes,
this
sir.
C1 with P1 plus f of k. So I get P1 plus f of k plus f of k from this one. So this f of k is nothing but the key. So it is nothing but P1 exclusive or the key. Right. So you will get the plain text. So you can observe here that P2, the plain text which is received at the receiver end, is equal to plain text P1 which is sent by the sender. So whatever operations you perform, the mixing operations, everything is invertible in nature. So this is the first idea of the Feastel. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So this is not sufficient. Actually, this particular technique what we have discussed in this particular slide is not sufficient to have the diffusion and confusion. We will see what idea has been implemented by the Feastel to improve the basic design. We can say this as the basic design, first thought or basic design. But later he has made some modifications that we will discuss. Before that, let me take an example of this particular Feastel cipher. See here, listen carefully. So the plain text and cipher text are each 4 bits long and key is 3 bits long. So what is the length of plain text?
Four bits long.
4
What is the
bits.
length of cipher text?
4 bits, sir.
4
Okay.
bits, sir.
What is the length of the key?
3 bits, sir.
3 bits.
Can anybody tell me why they have taken only 3 bits? Can I take 4 bits? Can I take 4 bits? Is it acceptable or is it a crime? Say yes or no. Can I take the 4-bit key? This we have explained in the concept of full
No,
size
sir.
key ciphers and partial size key ciphers. Can we take 4-bit
sir.
key? Yes. Right. So you can take the 4-bit key also, but it is better you always choose a partial key size. This is what we have discussed in the concept of full size keys and partial size keys. Right. So let us come back to our discussion. Assume that there is a function that takes the first and third bits of the key. What are the bits that are taken here? The first bit and the third bit. The function is defined in such a way that you take the first and third bit from the key and interprets those 2 bits as a decimal number and find the square of the number and interprets the result as a 4-bit binary pattern and show the results of encryption and decryption if the original text is 0111 and the key is 101. So what is the key I have? The 3-digit key I have given 101. So what is that? I have defined function f of key. You have to take the first and third bits. What is the first bit? I have 1 and third bit is 1. So I take 1 1. You convert it into decimal. What is the decimal value of 1 1? 1 1 base 2 is equal to how much of base 10? What is the value? This is
3, sir.
super 3, right? It is 3 base 10. and after converting it to decimal number, what he is saying is you square that number. What is 3 square? 9, and interpret the result as 4-bit binary number. So what is the 4-bit binary equivalent for base 9, the base 10, 9 base 10? That is the 4-bit equivalent.
1001, sir.
Right. So you have to perform the XOR operation. So he is asking us what is the encrypted text and what is the plain text. So at the encryption, I told that C is equal to, we have a formula here, right? C is equal to P1 plus F of K. So what is P1 I got here? What is that given here? 0 111. This is given. And XOR operation with the 4-bit key, right? It is 1001. So 1001 011. What is that result? 0 111 and 1001. So the XOR operation gives the result as 0 if both bits are equal, and it gives 1 if both bits are different. So 1 1 yields is 0. 1 0. What is the output? What is the output of 1 0?
1, sir.
1. What about this one?
1, sir.
Here?
1, sir.
1. So the ciphertext I got here is 1110. And at the decryption end, I have to reconstruct the plain text, and I have the formula as P is equal to C exclusive or F of K. What is the C I got here? 1110 exclusive or with the key 4-bit key, which is 1001. So what is that? I will get 1110. So am I reconstructing the plain text? So this and this is equal, right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So you can observe here that the function f of 101, what is f of 101? Which is nothing but f of k, has been transferred to a 4-bit key like this 1001. Is it invertible or non-invertible? We have 3 bits of input and the output is 4 bits. So it is non-invertible. But what we are doing here is we are making use of an XOR operation which is making this as self-invertible. So the function is non-invertible, but the mixer itself is self-invertible. So we can make use of these XOR operations to achieve the concept of invertibility. Why? Because the XOR and swap operations are by default are self-invertible. Clear? Right. So this is an improved Feastel design. As I told that the basic design or the first thought of the Feastel is not that much efficient, and he wants to improve that idea. So he has gone with another idea. Look here. So this is the plain text. This is at the encryption side. This is the plain text, and the plain text is divided into 2 equal parts, the L part and the right part. L stands for left part and R stands for the right part. So initially the plain text P1 is divided into L1 and R1. What is that I am doing in the mixer? Can anybody tell me? You can see here that L1 is exclusive ORed with f of R1 comma k. What do you mean by that? So I am defining a function with 2 variables, that is the key k will take the part in generating the function, and similarly the right part. For example, if I take the plain text as 8 bit, so how many bits are there in the L1? 4 bits. How many bits are there in R1? 4 bits. So the function f is defined with two variables, the right part, the 4 bits right part of R1, and the key. Key can be any size, it can be 4 bits or 3 bits, whatever it may be, right? And see here, this function is XORed with the left part 4 bits to generate L2, right? And if you observe this diagram, you can see here that R1 is directly connected to R2. Right. In between this, he has taken these 4 bits of R1 to generate the F. That is a different case. But this R1 is directly inputted to R2. Right. And this R1 is responsible for mixing up of this left part of the plain text to generate the left part of the ciphertext. Is it the ciphertext or not? So this I am representing it as C1, the entire L2 and R2. Right. And assume that these two things are connected with the communication channel. And now if you look at the reception side, again you get the ciphertext C2 here. So let us assume that this is C2 and this is C3 to sync with this L3 and R3. Again this ciphertext C3 is divided into two parts, the left and the right part, L3 and R3. Again this L3 is XORed with a function that is defined from R3 and K, right? And R4 is generated, it is a direct input from R3 to R4. And L4 is generated with some function, XOR function, right? Is it clear up to this point? Now by looking at this particular diagram, can you say that R4 is equal to R3? Is R4 and R3 equal or not? Is R4 and R3 equal or not?
Yes, sir.
And assume that there are no changes in the communication channel, then R3 is equal to R2. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And from this diagram, R2 is equal to R1. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
the
sir.
right part of the text remains as it is, right? So R4 is equal to R3 is equal to R2 is equal to R1. Right. Now the concept here is you have to find whether L4 is equal to L1 or not. That is what I need to know. Why? Because I know R4 is equal to R1, clear. But I should make equality for this L4 is equal to L1. So how do I define this L4? L4 is defined as, what is the formula? L4 is equal to, I am taking this L3 exclusive OR operation with, what is that? F of R3 comma K. Is it clear? Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Now assume, as I told, that there are no modifications that have been performed in the communication channel. So L3 is equal to L2. Can I write like this? L3 is equal to L2 exclusive R F of, I know this R3 is equal to R2 from this one. So I can write it as F of R2 comma K, right? and this R2 is equal to R1. Therefore, I can write it as, how I can write it? L2 plus f of R1 comma k. What is this L2? How it is defined? L2 is equal to L1 exclusive R f of R1 comma k. So, I can replace this with this formula. So, I will get it as L1 plus f of R1 comma k exclusive R f of R1 comma k. So, these are the exclusive R operations. So, the finally you will get it as L1. So, by this you have identified that the left part of the plain text which is sent by the sender with some mixing operations is exactly received at the receiver end, that is L4 is equal to L1. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But there is a problem with this particular design. What is that problem is, the write bits you are not making any mixing operations or modification or swapping, right? Is it clear? This R1 is directly given as input to R2. Therefore, whatever 4 bits we have, for example, take this as 0110. What is R2 here? It is 0110. What is R3 here? 0110. What is R4? 0110. So, once the attacker attacks this communication channel, he can get what actually the right part of the plain text consists of. Why? Because in the cipher text we have this R2 which is equal to R1, and this R1 is the actual data. So, when he attacks the communication channel and gets the R2 part, so it is equivalent to the right side part. That means when he attacks the communication channel, he is able to get almost half of the data, right part of information he is able to get. So, this is something not acceptable. So, for this purpose what he has done is, he has included one more component, very simple component, right. So, the same design has been taken, the final Feastel cipher design. This is the final Feastel cipher with 2 rounds. So, the plain text is taken and it is divided into 2 equal parts, L1 and R1, and key 1 is given as a function. That means you are defining a function with R1 and K1, and that is XORed with L1, and this R1 is passed to the swap function. See here he has added one more component which is a swapper, which swaps the left side part into right side part and right side to left side part. This is also a self invertible component. So, whatever L1 you have, L1 is equal to, this is L1 dash, L1 dash is equal to L1 exclusive R f of R1 comma K1. This is R1 dash. So, he is just swapping it. So, R1 dash, here L2 is equal to R1 dash and R2 becomes L1 dash. And these inputs are given as the inputs to the second round for the mixer, and again they are swapped to generate the encryption cipher which is L3 and R3. This is connected to the communication channel, and at the receiving end what the receiver is doing, he is performing the reverse operation. So, he will take the cipher text, divide it into 2 parts, L4 and R4, he will give it to the swapper, the swapper swaps it, and then the same operation is performed like that. After 2 rounds you will get this L6 and R6, right. So, if you apply the formulas and simplify it, you can observe here that L6 which is received, the left part which is received at the receiver end, is equal to L1 which is the left part of the original plain text. Similarly, R6, the right part of the cipher text which is received, the right part of the plain text which is received at the receiver end will be similar to R1 which is the right part of the actual plain text. So, this is the final Feastel design that has been given by the Feastel. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So that's all about the Feastel design, where he has used both the invertible and non-invertible components. And coming to our last topic of discussion in this session, that is the non-Feastel ciphers. Before itself, we have discussed that the non-Feastel ciphers makes use of only invertible components. So there is no question of non-invertible components to be used in the non-Feastel ciphers. Right. So a component in the encryption cipher has the corresponding component in the decryption cipher. This is what we seen in the Feastel cipher also. So if you have a component, for example, you have a mixer in the encryption side, the same mixer should be defined at the decryption side also. If you have a swapper in the encryption side, the swapper should be defined at the decryption side also. So the same thing similar to that of a Feastel, but note that S boxes need to have equal number of inputs and outputs. Why is this restriction we have here? Why he is saying that we need to have the equal number of inputs and outputs, the S boxes?
Because straight component is used.
Actually, we should not say the straight component for the S boxes. The straight components are defined for the D boxes. Right. So linearity. So S boxes to be invertible. S boxes are both invertible and non-invertible. We have two components. But since this is a non-Feastel cipher, you have to consider only the invertible components. So in order to have the invertible components, the S boxes should have the equal number of inputs and outputs. So that is the restriction we have in this non-Feastel cipher. Similarly, you have to concentrate only on the straight D boxes. Know where you can use the compression D box or the expression D boxes. You know very well. Why? Because the straight D boxes are the only components that are invertible in case of the D boxes. The compression and expansion D boxes are not invertible, right? And here there is no need to divide the plain text into two halves. And the first thought of Feastel cipher is an example of non-Feastel cipher where XOR is self-invertible and 2 by 2 S boxes are designed to be invertible. Straight D boxes is invertible, right? So if we go for the first idea, this is the first thought, right? So we are not dividing the plain text into two parts. Similarly, we are making use of a component called as XOR, which is self-invertible. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
So if we, sorry, what is this? This one, right? So what is that I am taking here? A mixer I am taking. A mixer is nothing but a XOR. Is it invertible or not? XOR is invertible or not?
Yes, sir.
How many S boxes
Yes,
I am
sir.
taking here?
4, sir.
How many inputs and how many outputs for each and every S box?
2,
Two
sir.
Two inputs, two outputs.
2 inputs and 2 outputs. So are they invertible? So
Yes, sir.
an S box is invertible if it has equal number of inputs and outputs. So how many inputs for this P box?
8 inputs, sir.
How many outputs are there?
8 outputs, sir.
8 outputs. So it is a straight D box. So if it is a straight D box, is it invertible? Yes. Right. So whatever components you are taking in this round, the mixer XOR operation, the S box which consists of equal number of inputs and equal number of outputs, and the straight D P box which is also self-invertible. All these three components are invertible. So this can be an example of non-Feastel cipher. Right. Is it clear?
sir.
Right. So this is all about the non-physical cipher. The only caution you have to take here is you need to make use of the keys in the reverse order for encryption and decryption. So when you pass the encryption in this order, you have to take the keys in the reverse order. That means K1, K2 and so on up to Kn. This is what happened at the encryption side. So in the decryption side, what is that you have to take? You have to first Kn and then Kn minus 1, like that it will go up to K1. So this is the only precaution you have to take, where you have to take the keys for each and every round in the reverse order for encryption and decryption. So that's all about our physical and non-physical ciphers. So that's all for today's session. And in today's session we have seen what a product cipher is. A product cipher is nothing but a combination of more number of S boxes, P boxes and other components. And we have seen the concept of diffusion and confusion. Diffusion is a property where it gives a relationship, or it hides the relationship between the plain text and the cipher text. So one bit change in the plain text will change a more number of cipher bits. Similarly, the confusion is a property which hides the relationship between the key and the cipher text. One bit change in the key will affect more number of bits in the cipher text. And after that we have seen to improve or to increase the degree of the diffusion and confusion, we need to have more number of rounds, n number of rounds. And later we have discussed the classes of the product ciphers, where we have discussed the physical cipher and the non-physical cipher. Physical is a scientist who has invented this cipher technique. So product ciphers. Physical cipher makes use of both invertible and non-invertible components. Best example is DES. And non-physical cipher makes use of only invertible components, and AES is the best example for this non-physical cipher. So that's all for today's session. Thank you one and all. We will discuss the other topics related to this block ciphers, such as the cryptanalysis, the attacks of the block cipher, in the next coming session. Thank you all.